Well, joining me now for more perspectives on this is a public affairs analyst and MD CEO Prewin Adekunle Akindeji. Good to have you on the program this morning. So what do you make of this position, even as the latest reports from the National Bureau of Statistics show that the economy has contracted by 6.1% due to the global pandemic?
Well, so thank you for having me around. I think the first thing we need to look at is prior to now, the contraction has been on. What has just happened is the pandemic has only exposed our vulnerability and the vulnerability of our economy as a nation. If you look at our GDP and the growth of Nigeria, I mean, it is stated that almost 6 out of every Nigerians is living below the poverty line. If that's already a very disturbing figure. So what we've had is, once the basic infrastructure that is needed for any economy to grow is not in place, we would have this number, and the fear is that this number is going to grow because there are no deliberate attempt to see how to tackle this issue. So you talk about basic indicators that determines whether an economy is growing, going to be positive or negative. Access to facilities, basic health, whether it is extreme poverty or primary or secondary, in whatever classes it falls into. All of these things are not particularly treated in our policy, and as long as we have an intrinsic problem in our economy in terms of how the country earns, in terms of how we spend our earnings, we would have a situation, a contraction from time to time in the current economy that we're on.
So if that is the case, what do you think will be the short-term solution? Because people really are in search of money, if I would use that language.
Okay, so I mean, it's not all by itself. You can't isolate it by itself. So the first thing that us as a nation we need to do is we need to check the kind of economy that we are running. First is that if the bulk of government revenue comes from oil, which we know is the current state, first, the whole industry or business has been affected badly. The first thing the government needs to do is to diversify. The second thing is that in every country, where you have strong economy, it is mostly driven by SMEs. So government needs to begin to do a lot of work in terms of empowering young people, young businesses to be able to grow. Hence, the wealth can be distributed amongst people. Also tackle the issue of unemployment. By the time you fix the first two, creating an enabling environment, providing the infrastructure that is needed, and stimulating the SME-oriented businesses, the business will come into place, and then there will be more wealth, if I may use that word, to distribute among people and in the nation.
And, looking at this globally or in a West African region, do you think perhaps it will also affect other regions? That's in terms of the West African region. Now, do you think that perhaps the global pandemic would have the same effects as it were?
So, I mean, generally speaking, every nation of the world has been affected badly, whether developing or developed nation, as the case may be. But in respect to African nations, we have particularly not been lucky in terms of leadership that we have. So there is also the issue of the leadership, the corruption, and the way the people are being led. So if the resources that are available are being managed and used the way it should be used, the effect may not be as much as what we currently have it. Yes, it will affect other African nations, but Nigeria is just a very peculiar state all by itself.
What do you make of this position, even as the latest reports from the National Bureau of Statistics show that the economy has contracted by 6.1% due to the global pandemic?
Yeah, thank you for having me once again. Once the basic needs of life are not met, the threat to life itself becomes very under siege. When you look at the basic things, I mean, as written and agreed by everyone, whether the cost to, whether the opportunity to food, to shelter, to good water, to education, to information, all of these are byproduct of purchase power, as the case may be. And once there is an imbalance in the economy of a nation, politicians or generally leaders tend to leverage or use such opportunity to create a problem. So I'll give you an example. When a man earns 50,000 naira and the purchase power of that 50,000 naira has been eroded by inflations, what technically happens is he begins to look for other ways, to make enhancements. And once that happens in an economy where, again, the opportunity there is very limited, any opportunity for him to make extra is what he will look for. And if for whatever reason politicians are have a way to throw around numbers or throw around money to them, people will do anything. So what we have, there is an intrinsic problem, that goes beyond just the economic contraction or the inflation, as it were, is just a byproduct of what we have. So what I think we should be talking about is, in the last 5 years, what kind of economy have we had? What have we run as a nation? In the last 3 years, how have we progressed? Which of the sectors of the economy have we improved? So what do we need to do, as people, as nation, as a country, as leaders, to get these things better to where they need to be? We could pick areas where we feel that, like the other time I was mentioning, so where do you earn from? How do you spend it? I'm aware that the debt deposit of Nigeria is over 30 trillion. So even if you earn a certain amount of money, you need to service this loan. So it means that in the next 5, 15, 10 years, maybe, except there is a radical decision and planning towards that, we're yet to see the real impact of inflation in the real sense of it.
All right, let's leave it at that, and thank you very much for your insights on this segment of the show.
Thank you for having me.